It was Black Fashion Week at the Harold Washington Library. The library system here in Chicago is celebrating 150th anniversary, and it's a celebration of the inauguration of the Central Library as the Grand Central Library. And I was so intrigued by that title, the original name of the building, Grand Central, because it's an interesting conflation of the idea of Central Library and the Grand. The Grand is in reference to the GAR, the Grand Army of the Republic, which is in fact half of the building, the original building on Michigan Avenue between Randolph and Washington. And it actually made the whole project possible. It was the idea of combining two things to accomplish something else, the combining of the public works of the library system and the service organization of the Grand Army of the Republic. Sometimes, it's a great example of combining two things to get one thing done. Welcome. Welcome to Conservative Coffee Hour. I'm Stanley Smith. At Conservative Coffee Hour, we're talking about politics and freedom. Those are oftentimes two separate things that need to be brought together. And we're also discussing the Constitution and the operational side of party politics. Sometimes those are also disparate things that don't always come together well to accomplish anything. It's definitely examples of combining different things to get something done. Not not always in a good way, and sometimes government just simply gets in the way. And part of that has to do with the fact that government seems to have found itself in the problem solving business, and that sounds like a good thing, but ironically, it can be problematic. I had the pleasure of taking my nieces and nephews on the college tours around town here, and first stop was always the University of Chicago, and I always found their orientation so intriguing because they will tell you right off the bat that the mission at the University of Chicago is to educate the next generation of problem solvers. And I always find that so interesting because that also sounds good, but do we really want our lives and society and our political sphere to just simply be that a series of problems that have been solved? I mean, is that really a vision or a dynamic leadership? Uh, Probably not. It's probably more of a false narrative, that the idea that somehow making these right choices is somehow going to get us to a good place. It's a Hegelian dialect of sorts. It's a rhetorical form of reasoning, which I don't really think should be driving public policy. It's arguing one thing against the other. It's a concept, but it's not meant to be a reality of living or a lifestyle of problems and solutions. Because frankly, solutions are not really furthering our rights. They're not an exemplification or a manifestation of our rights having a choice. It's freedoms for the sake of living into our constitutional framework. Um, Living into a life of solved problems is really doing the opposite. It's curtailing our freedoms through choice. We choose one thing and reject the other. It complies in consent. And is that really what we want to do? Give our consent? A woman's choice to choose. This has become a concept. And what is it that they're really consenting for? It's a choice, and now somehow it's become a lifestyle and even an identity. It's the hood ornament. Abortion, we discussed last week, has become the hood ornament of women's identities. We're being sold the idea that this is our freedom in action, having these choices and having the right to choose. Last week, we also discussed that Rod Blagojevich he was offering something to choose when he was trying to sell Obama's Senate seat here in Illinois, and he got caught up in that scandal through a recorded phone call. But I'm not embarrassed to say that I missed the part. I forgot the part about who he was talking to on that recorded message. And one of the people on our call reminded us that the person that Rod Blagojevich, was trying to sell Obama's Senate seat to was Mr. Pritzker, who later bought his way into being the governor of our state. Um, it just shows that sometimes it's what we don't remember that is really more telling. But it's an interesting story, and I was happy to see here it lifted up again because in the last political election cycle, we should have heard that story again, and it should have been something that the Republican Party at least brought to people's minds and attention once again. This week, I went to election judge training in downtown Chicago, and I was struck by the idea that they're really stressing the term paper and the idea of identifying voters and being more thorough in all of those processes. And I was struck by that because it could imply that they care and they're concerned, but it also could just be checking the box of due diligence to have a quick answer when anything is challenged or anything is questioned. And then they skirted over other potential vulnerabilities, such as the electronic nature of the voting, because even though it is physically paper, it's still going through an electronic scanner and being digitized and being counted by a electronic device. When we fired up the machinery as part of the training, the Dominion logo appeared on all the screens, and I noticed in the corner the name of the program was it was called the Democracy Server. And I was intrigued by that because, of course, we don't live in a democracy, we live in a republic. Um, but more important, here in Chicago, we have our mayoral election coming up next week. And, the word on the street is we all need to vote for Vallis, for Paul Vallis. And similar to the last election cycle for mayor, about a week before the election, we heard we really need to vote for this Lori Lightfoot person, which for many people was an unknown person. And in similar manner, Vallis, Paul, most of us don't know very much about Mr. Vallis, but the bigger picture, where's the choice in this mayoral election here in Chicago? Because they're all Democrats. That's kind of example of how they solve the problem here in Illinois. They solve the problem of party politics by just having one party. It seems like a choice, but it's really no choice. But all of my Republican friends are voting for Mr. Vallis. And who will be on the other end of that phone call? Probably Lori Lightfoot, who will run against Paul as a white racist if she makes it to the runoff. But no matter who wins, it's another example of putting two things together that accomplish something. And that thing that's accomplished here in Chicago is business as usual. If you would like to join us at Conservative Coffee Hour is every Saturday at 10 a.m. Central Time on Zoom. I will include my email in the description of this video. I'll be happy to send you an invitation. And I look forward to seeing you very, very soon.